the nice part about this controller, which was made by Battle Beaver Customs, I'll put a link to it at some point so you guys can find it. But this thing, the buttons are individual. So you see when I press this button, nothing else moves. You're just getting a raw input on all this stuff. I can like hold it down as much as possible, and the other buttons aren't actually moving. So that's important. That's a thing that the PS4 Pro or the PS4 pads have a big issue with, is the fact that when you press a button on this thing, you're actually moving the whole pad. Look at that! I'm only pressing one button right now, and the whole pad is like jittering up and down. Ugh. That's not good. That is not good. Yeah, the Xbox is similar, but the PS4 is like 3 times worse. So it's an issue on both systems. So the nice part is that when you have this, if you want to get a back-forward motion, you're just getting a back-forward motion. You're getting nothing else. So that's the controller preference I use. You can get a mod to replace this that's really cheap for like $20 if you want to do it yourself. But if you get the installation and they do it all themselves, I think this controller was $90, because you're buying a controller and then they're opening it and then adding it and then remanufacturing it, putting it back together and sending it to you. So if you want to get it with just that, you can if you want, or if you want to install it yourself, it might be a bit better. Anyway, so going down the input list, there's something that I've always changed on NRS games that is much different on this game by default. And that is where the throw and interact button. I have always felt that the interact always feels a lot better on the L buttons instead of the R buttons. I like throw when I'm holding a controller to be on the same hand that I'm piloting the buttons, the character's attacks. Because this isn't attacks, like this is all your movement. So I'm gonna keep like movement stuff over here. And instead, that means I prefer to do interact as L1 and throw as R1. And I believe at some point, and maybe in Mortal Kombat 9, it might have been that way by default. I can't exactly tell you why I've always done it that way, but I much prefer my throw attack to be on the same hand that is doing all the other attacking, you know, so. Outside of like flip stance and block, yeah, block should be on R2. I personally think that should not change. And then flip stance is now actually tied to certain attack buttons. It's all very odd. By default, this game gives you a lot of different options on here that'll turn on and off and everything like that, and I'll tell you what they are and why they are. This is the most important one that they added to on this game. So this is not what I use, but I'll show you what I use. Long input window timing. You'll notice when you do certain attacks that have back-forward motions, like if you do forward 3, like a kick, and you can cancel that into Scorpion Spear or something like that. So you do a forward kick, and then you do back-forward 1 to do spear. Sometimes, if this is under short, that'll be tough to do. The game will not accept the input of the cancel from you doing a forward 3 to spear. If you want that window to be bigger, you make this either medium or long. That's pretty much what it boils down to. I've noticed that it can be more difficult to cancel into some special moves at times if you keep input window timing to short. So it can be a little difficult. But I appreciate this in terms of this game, because this has been an issue in some games where it's like you can buffer it in from a long time, you can buffer it in from sometimes. The fact that the game lets you choose, oh, how long am I allowed to sort of cancel an attack into an attack? I prefer long for most characters, but I have run into issues with Kung Lao where I mostly should be keeping it on medium. Because sometimes I'll do it down, I can be pressing down to block, right? And then I'll press back, and I want to get my, like a back 1, I forget what the back 1 might be, and I'll accidentally do spin, because the game has you under long input, and it's preserving that down and that back as being 2 things that are linked together in the input system, and it's like, oh, you want spin. No, I'm crouching and I'm walking backwards and I want to get my attack, or I'm sorry, I'm walking forwards because spin is down forward, and I want to get my attack, and it's giving me spin instead of forward 1. That is frustrating, and in that situation, you want to start turning this down, and it's a lot in some situations. So, but in general, I like it on long. I've kind of got used to it being on long input window timing and yada yada yada. Crushing blows held check. I do not recommend you turning this on if you're new to the game. Keep this off. This means that your crushing blows, if you fulfill the requirements, will activate automatically. And you just get, you're playing Garrus and suddenly you just chop him in the neck and you get 40% damage. It was beautiful, you're having a great time. Crushing blow held check means that it will not automatically pop. So, turning this on is good in situations where, oh, I don't want to use my crushing blow immediately. Control when my crushing blow happens and how I use it. Okay, so that's good that that's there, because this is essentially like sort of, I'm just starting a character, I'm just gonna let crushing blows happen whenever, and then now I'm good at the character and I want to make sure to preserve that shit. I want to make sure I don't use my crushing blow because I need them to be preserved for a certain moment. And to make sure the crushing blow actually happens, all you do is just hold down the button. Like if you're throwing a person, you just hold down the throw button in the direction you threw. If you are, if it's an attack or it's like with you had an attack with 2, you just hold down that button, whatever the face button is, and the crushing blow will come out. And sometimes, even with crushing blow held check on, I still find myself doing them on accident sometimes. So this is just more control for your crushing blows. Release check is, and they actually call it this here, it's called negative edge. It's a term that came from the old Street Fighters, Street Fighter 2 days. And it's when you press a button down, and that counts as an input. But when you let up off the button, that also counts as an input too. And the way Mortal Kombat's input system has worked, I don't know why they haven't gotten rid of this yet, but I heavily encourage you to turn this off. I can understand that some people might like it for some reason, that it is something that some people will eventually do or utilize. And yes, some characters like Predator with his certain cancels in Mortal Kombat X, actually this was really good. It helped out a lot with doing some Predator caster cancels in MKX. So in some situations, not bad. But my God, please turn it. Just looking at your normal execution and why things are happening in weird directions, it's pretty much down to crushing. Turn it off. So please, negative edge, release check, just turn it off. It works a lot better in other games like Street Fighter. It still is used in a lot of other fighting games. But the way Mortal Kombat works, it doesn't feel right. So leave that off. Alternate controls are here as another Street Fighter thing, where the traditional input system for a Mortal Kombat game, and this has been this way since like MKX, I think, is, I'm thinking mine since Injustice 2. Down, back, back, down, forward, back, forward, instead of half circle forward, stuff like that. Down, up, instead of like half circle up. This is for the folks that want to roll the inputs instead of pressing back forward and not having to do, a rolled input. If you're a Street Fighter player and you really use that, this will feel extremely alien. But for the sake of, if you're used to Mortal Kombat and your inputs are more reliable when it comes to your special moves, I recommend turning this off. Like, if you really want your fireballs, and yeah, you don't have to press down and then forward to get a fireball motion like an ice ball. You can still roll your finger. It's just that in a situation where you have a back forward, but like Scorpion Spear, back forward 1, they'll throw a spear if you press back forward. If alternate control is set to on, you have to do back, down, forward, forward, meaning that you have to roll the input from one all the way to the other. Let me show you. So this is what it's like with with alternate control turned off. You just got to go back. If it's turned on, you have to roll your thumb from this to that. You have to go from one input all the way to the other, and that's more like Street Fighter, because Street Fighter doesn't have a lot of back-forward motions unless they're charges. Most of the time they're half circles, and that's not specifically hard to do. A half circle isn't really tough to do. I usually accidentally do half circles when I'm just trying to do fireballs. But that's why alternate control is there, in case you're used to rolling your finger across the D-pad in order to get stuff. But in my personal opinion, I actually recommend you turn it off. I think this is not an option that's required for many characters, and I think it just feels good without it being on. Because I like the back-forward motions in this game. Input shortcuts can also mess you up in terms of getting the special move when you want it to. And I think this is actually good sometimes, because this essentially makes it more lenient of how the game is going to register your input. For example, you might know the notorious down, back, forward motion that some characters have for throws. Down, back, forward gives you a throw on a lot of characters in previous NRS games, and some characters have it here, like Kano, I believe. It just makes that input a little bit easier. Like, the game will accept the weird, jumbled inputs that you have on the side, and if it recognizes the fact that, oh, you got it down, you got it back, and you got it forward, and a certain amount of time you go. The problem with that is that sometimes if you're moving your character around back and forward, you might accidentally get an attack. And this is the same thing that boiled down to that Kung Lao thing that I had earlier, where I was getting accidental spins all the time with Kung Lao. I was like crouching and then walking forward, and I wanted to press forward as well, because this is the neutral punch button. And I would accidentally get spinned all the time. That's because my instant shortcuts was on. The game is recognizing that, oh, you press down, and then a little bit later, you press forward, we're gonna give you spin. No, that's not what I want at all. So we went back and figured out why I had this on initially for a lot of characters and I thought it was okay. I turned it off after that, and I've actually gotten used to it being off, so I'm kind of okay. This is one of those things where if you're having issues with the fact that your alternate control is on, you might want to turn input shortcuts on as well to make it accept things a little bit easier. In my personal opinion, it's not, this is when you might want to mess around a little bit. And sometimes if you're like, yo, why am I getting this special move every once in a while? It might be input shortcuts. So this one up here is more importantly for canceling into moves. This one is for the move itself. And does that move get registered by the game? So these complement each other very much. Input shortcuts and input window timing, these can complement each other a lot. So you might want to mess around with short to medium to long, as well as the shortcut itself and the game accepting, did you mean to do that special move? This was a big thing when Street Fighter 4 came out, when most stuff, like Shoryukens and fireballs and everything like that, double fireballs were a lot easier to do. And this sort of carries all that. I don't mind it as long as the system makes sense. Anyway, so this, I believe, is when you want to have some of your other quick buttons. So, for example, throw and lock. I think it's specifically throw, interact, and I'm not too sure if flip stance has an input shortcut. But throw is square and X, and then opposite throw is triangle and circle. You can disable that if you want. You can actually tell the game to, oh, I don't want to have to worry about pressing these buttons and accidentally getting a throw. Flip stance is 3 and 4. Well, there you go. So flip stance is X and circle. And if you accidentally press those two buttons at the same time, you're going to get flip stance when you don't want to. That's a big thing. So in case you're always throwing with one, or you're always throwing with one of these buttons on the top, there's no real need to have this. Like, maybe there's some sweet tech thing in the near future that this might be really good on. But yeah, so flip stance does do things in this game. It's used for wake up attacks and shit like that. So yeah, flip stance they integrate it into the game itself, but they really didn't need to. They could have put that on the wall. They did it that way. So yeah, I think that is a good point. Alternate controls are mostly for people with arcade sticks. This would be very helpful with people with arcade sticks. And I generally sort of keep these on as well, so for the majority of this is not what it looks like. But in some situations, I'll probably be turning this off, and I'll probably be turning this off. These are the two that I change the most right here. And if I'm learning a new character, I'll probably turn crushing blow held check to off, so that if I'm learning that character, I can get random crushing blows off throws and stuff that I forget about every once in a while, which helps out a little bit. So those are that's the control scheme I use. That is the controller I use and why I use it. And that is what I've been sort of consistently using ever since Mortal Kombat X, when I first really got into these games, or Injustice 1. I remember messing around with all of the controls for a long time. And it just made everything hard. It felt really difficult to do even the most basic stuff. So I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's just easier to not have it, and hopefully some of that stuff, if you mess around with it, will make the game a bit easier to play. 9 for me.
Close to a 10.
It was really close. Yeah, I don't think this one's as good.
No.
I give this one like a 5.
You know what? It was promising. It was great in the beginning. Your body's being held together by electricity, and you're still.
And then it just
separates
separates
it. And it separates it.
Yeah.
I think it should have been
6 or a 5.
I think it should have been a big explosion.
I'm actually gonna give this one a 5. Jesus. It's really creative and it's fucking, it does what the character does.
9, man.
I give this one like a 10. Like,
It's really disgusting.
It's
and then,
disgusting, it's brutal, and it's awesome. Like, I'm gonna give that one a 10 out of 10.
That's definitely high on that list right now.
Yeah, right now. So far, yeah.
I did this on accident to a guy online. I felt bad. Just get blown the fuck up. So you just the corpse.
I got 7. It's creative use.
I'll give it a 6. It's cute.
I kind of like it.
It's a cute, nasty fatal.
I like it because there's the tension.
Yeah.
It's taking a little too long.
Oh, what the hell? Awesome. Another guy beats.
Awesome.
He literally beats up. Yeah, I'll give it an 8.
Fantastic way to
Yeah. Yeah, because he does the thing in the move first is an uppercut.
Yeah.
And now he's doing the uppercut and he literally is just whacking all the body parts on the way down.
And is very confident. Guess what? Boom, boom, boom. Oh, man. Right there, stupid ass.
Jesus.
Damn.
Yeah, it's simple.
Simple but cool.
It is cool though. I'll give it a 7. Yeah,
Like, I get it. It's a 1-inch punch and it's all lit up on fire, but at the same time, it's just like a punch to get punched.
Yeah, he just punches you a lot.
Punches you to take.
I'll give it a 6. I said 7, but the more I think about it, you're right.
Hey,
A lot of punches.
I'll stick with the 7, man. I like how he powers it up and boom.
Yeah.
Steven, please. Come on.
I want to take you for a ride. Dude, we pretty much did that in MK4, where there's the stage fatal where they grabbed you and spun around and then just tossed your ass into the fan. That's a tough one. I give it
That was awesome. Dude, he uses his hat so well in fatalities, man.
Yeah, it really does.
And every time he does a fatality, the hat just is a
sells it.
star.
I collect only the finest from all
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
Most of
Funny
the time,
criticism.
the POV camera,
Yeah.
when they're
That's a great shot.
You're like, whoa, this is like very unique.
The GoPro cam, like,
Yeah.
ah!
That's your intro just flying around.
Yeah, the hat is and very much the MVP of a lot of
Kombat
Kombat stuff.
Yeah.
Slick.
Got it.
Nice shot. It's an 8. You know, I think it's a good use of like
7 to the
Yeah,
characters
I give it-
already dead.
I really like the teleport and the throw look really sick.
Yeah. It's slick, but yeah, I give it a 7 because it's very similar to Lost City.
His characters already dead. Like, they're like maybe, I don't know, maybe some other characters. Sometimes when the character's already dead, they're just like 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah, a little bit. That is fuck. No, now it's just mutilation.
Yeah, now they just stun on.
With the gun. Ow. Jesus, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
As soon as it's like wide eye, as soon as his face is like, holy shit. With the gun. Ow.
Then it's fucked. Now it's just mutilation.
Yeah, now they're just stunting on.
But they're done. Ow. Jesus, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
As soon as it's like wide eye, as soon as his face is like, holy shit. Yeah, that was pretty badass. That's like an 11 out of 10 for Simmons, I'm gonna tell you right now.
That's really good.
I give
It
it
started off a little
Yeah,
like,
it's
okay,
an
whatever, he's
animality.
just chopping you with this. Oh, shit.
Yeah,
It's a good
It's an
animality.
animality combined with a really good fatality. I'm gonna give it a 10.
Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10.
That shit was fucking
Especially
awesome.
for Kodal, can you imagine Kodal doing a better ender than that? Or
No.
I
Man.
it's close to a 10. I would like to see them eat some more.
He bites your neck and then he
Yeah.
rips out the
I want
heart.
to see him eat more.
I like the exposed the heart. I'm like, you know what? I was like, oh, the heart's
Fatal's
exposed.
end on like a slow fade to a freeze, so it's
Yeah.
not like it's just. If it was like a different MK game where they
just fall down and he
as
continually
Fatal
eats.
just continually
Yeah, he
eats.
turned your pancreas into a gusher.
There was a moment where I'm like, oh, the heart's exposed, but they're not doing anything with it. Oh God, what are they gonna do with it? And then the cat ate the heart. I was like, all right, no, there was a sense of anticipation. It was a great fatality.
Want him to eat more crumbs. Kind of like Molina.
You want, yeah, that end, yeah.
Yeah, where it's gone.
They don't have those anymore. They had it
Yeah,
shot.
it freezes to it.
Yeah. Golly.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh my God! You're already dead.
Yeah. That one's awesome.
The eyeballs. It's a good 8. Yeah, I'll give it a high 8.
For me, that's a 10. That was just brutal.
It's brutal as fuck.
Brutal
Yeah.
as fuck. That's like one of the most brutal fatalities.
Kicking your neck backwards
Kicking
over
your
a
neck?
blunt edge.
Yeah, until it's like practically up.
It does a good job because Kodal's like a powerhouse, so
Yeah.
it really feels like Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, that kick,
It
dude.
feels brutal.
Collector, what you gonna collect? Oh my God. Oh, a lot of eyeball popping.
Yeah, right? We're going back to 4?
7. Yeah, it's 7. 7. I like the fact that he used the teleport and bopped you in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Pretty damn neat.
Oh, imagine I want to see that.
I want to see back. Well, very Molina-like.
Yeah.
I'll take this, I'll take that, and I'll take one of
Yeah,
these.
there it is.
Organs wishes you out like a clever.
Yeah, it collects your organs in your head, but the ending is kind of weak.
I agree.
Yeah, it's like,
you already,
it's a 7.
Yeah, why are you smashing her? It's
Yeah.
already done.
It's already done. You already grabbed all the weird things you want.
Take anything else.
Look.
Awesome.
It's got a cool shot at the end, but I only think
7.
I give it a, yeah, I might
6 or
actually
7.
give it a 6.
Yeah.
I give it an 8, man. That was so clean. It was cinematic. It was dope, dude.
It was
There's a
quite-
kick.
It was quite elegant.
Yeah,
which
it
is
was
what she's
elegant.
all about.
Like, you know, she's got the one spinning the blow. She calls the other one and does a cool, like, blade
Yeah.
kick. If she would have said, some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill, and then kicks him in the head, 10.
I wasn't, yeah, I don't know, 6 or a 7.
I'm giving it a, I'm sticking by a 6. It's kind of a weak one.
I give it an 8.
Okay, the other one is.
Fucking awesome.
That's a pretty goddamn cool
Yeah.
one, dude.
That's a
That
pretty
one is
one.
awesome.
I'll give it a 9.
I'll also give it a 9. It could almost be a 10.
Almost a 9.
Very, very creative on that one.
Yeah.
In a horrible
Yeah.
Dude.
That's way better than the other
All
one.
your units are getting sucked in, and just the power at
The X-Men's final battle. I've seen evil. And I'm looking at it now. It will be their greatest.
You have no idea.
X-Men, Dark Phoenix, and PG-13. Tickets on sale now.
That's way better than the other one.
all your units are getting sucked in, and just the power at the end.
There we go. Yeah,
Give it a 6.
I'm actually gonna give it a 4. I think that one is not as good as even Raiden's.
I don't know, because like there's impact on it.
There
Like,
is impact.
Every time he does it,
It's way better. It's better than most Fatals on like MKX and stuff. But for this game,
fair.
I'm actually
Fair.
putting in
That's
comparison to
brutal.
this game. It is
Okay.
brutal, but it lacks like some of the pizzazz that a lot of
It just
other ones
headbutts you
have.
until
He just headbutts you and then you blow up.
That is fair. Counterpoint. I'll give it a 5. Fair counterpoint. But I like the details because MKs, like some of the previous MKs, never did that. Where they do one thing,
Yeah.
there's a damage.
And there's something else that happens, but that was just it.
No deal.
What this one? A Heineken?
Awesome.
What the fuck?
Spewing out
And it's
funnel.
spewing out and he's like happy smiling.
Yeah.
He
It's like an 8 out of 10, honestly.
yeah, he dances with your crazy
That's
dead
music.
body.
You're like
Some
that
music comes
electrical.
That's a high 9, almost a 10 in my
You know
opinion.
what? You know who would have a fatality like that? Probably the Joker. That would be
Yeah.
a great Joker fatality.
Yeah, it would be.
But it's good for Kano.
You know what? That's like a high 8, maybe a 9.
I'm actually gonna give it a high 9. It's almost a 10 in my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost yeah.
Oh. Oh.
God.
Peter, whip the ground. Oh, that one's painful. That's a 9 out of 10.
It's a good 8. It's very brutal.
Yeah, it's like,
It's not super creative, but it's just very
visceral. Yeah.
And
Visceral's the best
you
way.
don't get it too much, but if you do it on a human, it's even worse. You see the fear in their eye and all that stuff.
Yeah, that
You
the
see it
eyes.
a little
I
bit
think I've
more.
seen that before,
When you,
yeah.
when you do it on Jackie, her eyes are
Oh,
going
no,
out.
I don't like that.
It is hard to
Yeah,
watch.
it's hard to watch them dying like
Yes.
yeah.
And the sound.
There's like MKX, there's a bit too much of like eyes rolling into the back of their head and shit. I was like, ugh, I don't know.
On Jackie, it is definitely hard to watch. Eyes coming out.
9 out of 10. Yeah, 9, and I would even give it a high 9. It's awesome.
I give it a 10. It's a fantastic way to use his powers, and he really
I think the transfer of energy is the coolest part.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it this way, and then because of my power, I can change all my kinetic energy to go the other way.
The reason, because in one, it's mostly the shit he already does, but two, it's like, this is very clearly coming from Flash.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
it just
yeah.
feels like we took this from the other games and just kind of made
Yeah.
it work with Cabal.
Yep. Cabal is the Flash of this game.
Really?
No, I need that asshole. Oh my god. What the fuck?
Did you hear it? No. Do it again.
I'm gonna do it again.
But listen.
I'm gonna do it again and we're gonna listen.
Yeah.
Do it again and listen.
Yeah.
We're all gonna shut up this
You're
time.
like, oh. Yeah, but watch.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like it a lot already. That's terrible, Kenny.
Hey.
No, it's a 1. Yeah, the second one's not nearly as good as the first.
Yeah.
It's some pretty shitty fatality. I don't know what the hell you're doing. Oh my god! 10 out of 10! 10 out of 10!
I really like that one a lot.
Because it's like, it does all like the wind up and then the da-da-da-da, and it's not like
Turns into a skull.
yeah, he doesn't
Blows
just
the
whack
skin
the
off.
head. He knocks the skin off the skull.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. You didn't hear that. I didn't hear it.
How much time do
That
you
is
have?
right there. That's an amazing fatality. I'm grinning from ear to ear on that one. From ear to ear. Wow.
That was awesome.
Simple but effective.
Yes, and a lot of just impact.
I kind of wish he did more of his Superman punch instead of just hold arm.
Yeah.
I give it a 9.
I gotta give him a double 10, man.
Double 10.
Double 10, dude. That
Lot of
impact, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I feel.
Really almost.
Yeah, of course.
The other one's way better.
Yeah, the other one's way better.
Yeah.
This still gets it on the 10.
To be honest, the other one's like a 12.
Yeah.
The base one was like a 12.
Yeah, it's like a 10 or
Yeah.
9 or something like that.
Golly, but this one's. Damn.
Ow. Ow.
On screen.
Yeah.
The pizzazz, the animation was
Yeah, I think it's an 8. It's flashy.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, you already did? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an MK9 reference when she used to spin around the wall. Yeah.
You want to see me spin? Well, fuck you.
Spin, fucko.
I'll spin this shit.